Hello and welcome to another podcast for Supplier T News. Bless you. I have with me Ray Hayes on another podcast. So Ray, thanks for joining me.
No problem at all, Jaymie. How you doing?
Doing all right. Hopefully, sounds sick over there, but hopefully you're getting better. But I think I have the cure, and that is a conversation about some of the things we're going to talk about today. But before we get into it, I'd like for everybody to please like the video, subscribe, share with all your family, friends, and people you don't like. And if this podcast moves you, go ahead and leave a comment and tell us what you think. Now, on today's podcast, we're going to cover three main topics, right? Kind of what we've been doing for the last couple of podcasts. Just discussing three big things that have happened over the past week or so and giving our take on it. So for this week, we're going to talk about, as you can see in the picture there, LeBron James and his controversy with Fox News analyst Laura Ingraham, and how today's modern athlete is different than those of the 90s and even, early 2000s. Next up, we're going to talk about NASCAR's Diversity Program and how that is revolutionizing the sport of NASCAR. And then lastly, we're going to touch on small business confidence and what it means for diverse businesses. Now, before we get into the first one, which is the renaissance of modern day athlete, I also want to try something new and quick here. So I do want to touch upon three quick articles that, if it moves you, we'd like you to check out at Supplier T News. The first one is Inc. magazine. It just revealed its first ever Vet 50, covering the fastest growing veteran-owned companies in America. So this is the first time they've ever done that. So definitely check that out. Inc. magazine covers essentially small businesses and kind of what they're doing in America. Obviously a well-known and respected magazine. So the fact that they're focusing in on veteran-owned businesses this time, I think it's really interesting, and definitely check that out. Next up, Lyft riders can now donate to Black Girls Code. So if you're interested in learning more, take a look at that. And then lastly, Florida A&M, or FAMU, is seeking minority-owned firms for an upcoming project. So apparently there's going to build, I can't remember if it's either build or renovate their student center. So if you're a minority-owned company, in the Florida area, definitely check out that article as well. So we're going to leave links to those. And again, take a look at it and let us know what you think. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into the podcast. Renaissance of the modern-day athlete. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, have heard about LeBron James and the Laura Ingraham controversy. Long story short, and then I'll pass it over to Ray and he'll give his thoughts, and we'll have a conversation about it. But long story short, LeBron James gave an interview with Kerry Champion and Kevin Durant, and it was just essentially a conversation about, just life and what's going on in America. And one of the topics came up about President Trump. As many people are aware, LeBron James is not a fan of President Trump. So he essentially repeated what he's always said in the past about the president on that interview. Laura Ingraham, Fox analyst, obviously heard about this, and she gave her take on it. And what she said was that LeBron James needs to stick to basketball, essentially. LeBron James has...
Shut up and dribble.
Yeah, shut up and dribble. LeBron James, has responded since she gave her thoughts on that, and essentially saying that, this pretty much proves what he's been saying, and that he's not going to shut up and dribble. And he's going to speak out on what he sees as injustices or unfairness in America. And Laura Ingraham has also said some other things, essentially saying that she's not racist and she just makes critiques. She critiques everyone fairly, essentially. So, with that controversy happening, we now have brought in that a little bit. And again, I'm going to pass it over to Ray right now. And we're going to discuss how not just LeBron James, but just the entire idea of the modern athlete, or the renaissance of the modern athlete, and how today's sports stars are a little bit different than versus a couple of years ago in their willingness to speak out on political issues or any issues in general. So, Ray, what are your thoughts on the renaissance of the modern day athlete?
I wanted to put some. I wouldn't say necessarily, I guess, focus on the idea of just the athlete, but the superstar athlete.
Okay.
Due to the fact that LeBron James right now is one of the biggest names in sports. And in the 90s, because you said we talked about how, or we were talking about how the modern day athlete is different from the athletes from the early 2000s and 90s. When you look at Michael Jordan didn't speak about social issues when he was playing basketball.
Right. I agree.
He usually kept his mouth shut. And, I mean, I'm not going to say he's right or wrong. He chose what he chose. He stuck to playing basketball, marketing his brand, and being the best basketball player in the history of the NBA. That was his goal. But it seems now is athletes, and particularly superstars, are not afraid to lose money due to the fact they are standing up for something they believe in. LeBron James, he's not just an athlete. He's a businessman.
Well, would you simply say a superstar athlete? Well, you know what? We'll get into other athletes as well. But keep going. You're talking about he's a superstar athlete.
Yeah. I'm just saying the fact that he's not just an athlete. He's a businessman, and he's doing amazing things in the communities of Cleveland, Ohio, and in Akron, Ohio. And you have to respect him for that. So, granted, Laura Ingraham, she may not be racist. I'm not saying she is, but it was naive of her to say that, make that comment. Just shut up and dribble. Come on, I mean, granted, we all have a voice. We all can say what we want to say, whether it be right or wrong. But we all have a voice, and we can speak out what we want to feel. So, for her lack of respect for him and just ignorance overall, it was kind of like it was naive, and it shouldn't have been said at that moment in time, because you're putting a vocal point just on yourself, and you make yourself look ignorant to say those things. And in the climate of the sports world now, it's like, no, he's not Michael Jordan. He's not just going to sit down and not say anything about Donald Trump or about politics or about what's going on in his community or within any urban community. He's going to speak up about it. So media personalities or political figures, they have to accept it. The modern day athlete is doing something totally different compared to the 90s athlete. And I mean, you cannot overlook it, and you're going to have to accept it, because with LeBron saying something and not to be afraid to state his opinion, these kids who watch him on TV and are growing up to be to take over the NBA or the NFL after he leaves or after Odell Beckham Jr. leaves the NFL, they're going to start speaking up and letting their voices be heard.
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah,
they're growing a whole new renaissance of an athlete.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is athletes more inclined to like the 60s and 70s, right? That whole socially conscious athletes.
I don't want to say that.
Why not?
I don't want to say not the 60s and 70s, because there's a different climate, and the fact of it is those athletes, Michael Jordan necessarily didn't have to speak up, but during that time, they had to speak up and let voices be heard. Because,
so are you saying they don't have to speak up now?
No. I'm saying they do have to speak up now because of what's going on in society. I'm saying the fact that when Michael Jordan was playing in the 90s, the climate was different. The climate in the world is now is where we need athletes of color to speak up
All right, but we're
and let
talking
their
about.
voices be heard. During the 60s and 70s,
Okay.
you needed that too.
Yeah, I said that it was right now. It's similar to the 60s and 70s, not the same, right? But it's similar in that
Okay.
you're seeing a lot of athletes not afraid to be socially conscious. Um,
Right.
that's all. Are they talking about different? Are they talking about the same things? No, right? Because in the 60s, uh, the issues that Muhammad Ali had, which is separate but equal, which is a law. I mean, that just doesn't exist anymore. So no, LeBron James isn't talking about anything like that. But it is similar in terms of being socially conscious. Now, what I do want to note is that I don't think that you necessarily have to be a sports superstar to be a part of this renaissance of the modern day athlete. Perfect examples are Colin Kaepernick. Like LeBron James is a Hall of Famer in his sport. Colin Kaepernick probably is not, but
No,
they,
he isn't.
yeah, but they both are still
Mhm.
part of this modern day athlete renaissance where they're speaking out about social issues that are important to them. And I want to make sure that we don't just keep it to like a LeBron James or a Colin Kaepernick. You can also be like a JJ Watt, right? Who when the terrible tragedy
Right.
happened in Houston, like he one of the first, like he did everything he could to support that
Right.
community. Um, Howie Long's one of his sons, I can't remember. I think it's Chris Long, maybe.
Chris Long.
Yep,
Chris
yep.
Long.
Who
Chris
donated
Long.
his entire salary
Yeah.
for the entire year. So I mean, you got a lot of people, regardless of their color, that are a part of this renaissance and speaking up about things that matter to them, and taking stances, regardless of who may or may not be offended, in an effort
Right.
to support their communities, or whatever. More so, I'd say their communities, right? And I think that
Yeah.
that's very interesting, and I do want to note that. So I can't. I don't know why Laura Ingraham, said what she said or whatnot. And I'm not gonna, justify. Or I'm not gonna, whatever she said, what she said, whatever. I think it's important
Right.
that what we're looking at here when we're talking about athletes. So first and foremost, as Americans, everybody has a right to say how they feel about the president, as long as it's not nothing like crazy, right? And when I say crazy,
Right.
like as long as
Right.
you're not
Exactly.
saying Donald Trump is trying to you know grab a gun and kill a million people or something like just something like come on like that's crazy. But like if he believes that President Trump isn't unifying the American people as much as he should or he could, that's his opinion. Okay, fine, you can respect that, right? Because
Right.
when President Obama was in office, there were people on the right, particularly who came on Fox News, who said this exact same thing about President Obama, right? And criticizing him about how he wasn't as unifying as he could be, right? So that's fine. But I do
Right.
think that so because of that, my point when we're talking about this modern day athlete is that if they're saying these things, I don't think we should be criticizing them. Instead, I think that it's better to have interviews like the Kerry Champion, and maybe have a separate interview and whatnot. We're just discussing, okay, well, what could he possibly do better? If that's something that you care about, right? What could he possibly do
Right.
better? What could you possibly do better? How can we make America just a better place? And I think that these people, I mean, I'm not these people, but these well, yeah, these people, these athletes, they're just simply trying to look for ways to support and better their communities. Um, and when people put a microphone in front of their hand, that in front of their face, and ask them about what they think, that's all they can do, especially when they're passionate about things.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think that the right thing to do is to say shut up and dribble. Like I don't. Uh,
Yeah.
that's that. I mean, that's you shouldn't say that to anybody. An athlete, like shut up and whatever their profession is. That's unfair, and that's not right.
It's just not fair. It's just not fair to them as a person, just overall, regardless of
Yeah,
like you said, their profession. It's just not fair. I mean, come
yeah,
on now.
yeah. Like it's so you're saying he doesn't have a right to have an opinion about the president. I mean, there's
Their
just some.
network. I mean, you criticize. You criticize a lot of political figures. So it's kind of like, why can't he has that right to criticize
Yeah, like well,
a political figure as well.
yeah. I just can't, like, you don't have a right to say, like, you don't have a right to have an opinion about the president. Like, that's just because you're a sports act like that. We gotta be better than that. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
as a country, we just gotta be better than that. We're gonna have disagreements. I get it. You're not gonna like what they say on either side, whatever side you're on. I get it, but I mean, come on, you don't have a right to have an opinion. That's amazing. But so that's and that's what the renaissance of the modern athlete is, right? They are gonna have an opinion,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, and they are gonna support their communities and the way that they think is best, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
The modern day athlete. Okay.
But and that ties into our next topic, Jaymie, and how NASCAR is changing the idea of the modern day athlete in the sport of NASCAR, and who they market to, and the crew members and everything. So,
that's a good segue.
but go ahead.
No, you got it. Keep going. Like, you took the ball, you're running with it.
I'm sorry.
Finish it.
No, the fact of it is, okay, so our next topic, we talked about how there's a new age of athletes. And in NASCAR, that's what's going on right now with the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program, which is targeting minorities and females to join the field of NASCAR. This is a NASCAR organization. I want to give an overall view of what the diversity program is within NASCAR and what they offer minorities and females. Okay, so the Drive for Diversity program is a development system instituted by the American Auto Racing League, NASCAR. The program's purpose is to attract minority and female individuals to the sport, primarily as drivers, but also including ownership, sponsorship, crew members, and to attract a more diverse audience to the sport. Now, as of right now, minorities in the field of NASCAR are minuscule. There is barely any minorities in the field of NASCAR, but like I said, that's slowly changing. And thanks due to people like Bubba Wallace, Daryl Edwards, and a few of others. But today I want to highlight those two individuals because of their recent achievements. So first, let's talk about Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace recently finished second in a NASCAR event, and he was the first African American since 1963 to finish in second place of a NASCAR event. In 1963, NASCAR Hall of Famer, Wendell Scott, he's an African American male, finished in the top categories as a racer at a NASCAR sport. So, but Bubba taking the ownership will say, okay, I'm going to achieve in this sport. Although there's not that many minorities in this sport, I give him a ton of congratulations and much due respect. Because, I mean, I'm sure it was hard, but he pushed through and made it happen. And one of the key things is he's a graduate of the Drive for Diversity program. He also completed the Xfinity Series for NASCAR in the top standing. So, I mean, Bubba is definitely one of those faces who's helping change the sport. Daryl Edwards. Mr. Edwards is the first member of the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program as well to be a part of a Daytona 500 pit crew. And with that being said, a winning pit crew. He is the first African American male to win a race as an over the wall crew member. And like I said, he's from that diversity program. So as you can see, just from those two individuals, that diversity program is working. And it can slowly change the sport of NASCAR, and it can bring a total new audience into the field of NASCAR, because minorities work on cars too. Minorities love cars too. Females love cars too. However, if you look at the sport of NASCAR, You wouldn't think so. If you go to a NASCAR event, you wouldn't think so. So the drive for diversity program is much needed, and it's steadily going to grow with the success of these two individuals.
Yeah, I agree.
And I love to see this because, like, as a kid, I went to a NASCAR event, and it was just like,
why am I here?
I don't know. It's like, man, I'm the only person here.
Yeah, why am I here?
And only person being minority being the only person at the event with my mom's boyfriend. It was like, man, this sucks. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't. It's not. Nothing's here attracting me. There's nothing that was catered to my age group at the time, or just people from my community at the time. It was just like, okay, we're going to stick to what we know. But with the diversity program, like I said, it's going to attract more millennials, because millennials are slowly changing the workforce.
Yeah,
and we'll see what the future holds for NASCAR.
Yeah, I think this is why programs like diversity programs like this are created, right? And this is why they're needed. You know, because there hasn't been a black person who succeeded to this level since, would you say, the 70s?
Since 1963.
Oh, geez, I was being too generous. Since the 60s, right?
Mm-hmm.
The programs like this, it's always hard to describe why programs like, specifically when it comes to diversity, are necessary to people who just don't support it, right? It's hard to explain because, I mean, I don't even know kind of where to start, but it's hard to explain to someone that there are literally. Ray, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, you're just being real quiet. Okay, yeah. So it's hard to explain why like programs like these are necessary when there's 0 to 0 opportunities beforehand, right?
Right.
Like before this program came about, was there anything holding any black person back from being successful? No. But was there anything helping them in terms of getting opportunities to be where they are? Well, no, too. I'm not going to say completely not, but it probably wasn't as much as there are now, right? I mean, black people are a community, right? And it's safe to say that if you're a black person, you know other black people, right? Which means that your network is based off of what other black people know, right? So if there aren't a ton of black people in the network of NASCAR, then there won't, because there's not a ton of people, or because there's no black person in NASCAR, no black person is going to get into it because it's not within their network, even if they have that talent. But if you create a program that reaches out to them, black women, Hispanic, whatever, reaches out to these communities, well, now you're affecting people's network, right? So now that you've reached out to me, now I can tell you about other people who are qualified that can maybe, enter the NASCAR sport and be successful. And I really like this program because, again, it's expanding networks and it's expanding opportunities for people like a Bubba Wallace to potentially be successful, right? And that's all this is. It's just an expansion of opportunities. And it's hard to explain that to people who, because I'm pretty sure before Bubba Wallace finished second, people were like probably looking at him and like, oh, he's just a quota, But it's like, no, that's not what this is about. This is about giving opportunities to people who have the potential to succeed. And obviously he's proven that he has that potential. But the thing is, he always had that potential, right? He was always that good. All he needed was an opportunity, and all he needed was a network that supported him to give him that opportunity. And that's what these programs are for, because without them, there's a good chance, based on history, he wouldn't have gotten that. So I'm with you. I really like this.
Real quick, Danny. Bubba is, I'm focusing on Bubba right now because he's the big name news.
Yeah, I know he's not the only one
coming out of the diversity program, but you have a young man by the name of Kyle Larson, who's considered a great driver. He came out of the diversity program back in 2012, and since then he's run several Rookie of the Year honors. He's won several races, and he's looked at as one of the top drivers in NASCAR. He won the 2012 NASCAR K&N Pro Series East Rookie of the Year, 2013 NASCAR Nationwide Series Rookie of the Year, the 2014 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Rookie of the Year, and the 2017 Mobile One Driver of the Year award. So he's a very successful another driver who came out the program. But like I said, I talked about Bubba because he's the most recent
he's a hot name
graduate that's done something big, a big name right now. Also, you have people like Darrell Wallace Jr., another African-American driver.
It's a lot of Wallaces.
Graduate of the Yeah, definitely. But he comes out of the diversity program. You have Mexican-born driver Daniel Suarez, a winner of the K&N Pro Series East and the NASCAR Toyota Series events. So you have drivers that are coming out of this program that are proven to be successful. So it seems to be really working. And it's not just drivers. You have crew members that are coming out as well. So next you'll see probably owners, and
the sponsors,
people, sponsors, and also maybe someone to own their own car as well. So it's definitely great to see that this program is moving forward and is very successful as of now. But it goes to show you that diversity is important. But if you offer opportunities to people of color and females, they can achieve. You just have, like you said, James, give them that opportunity. Open the door for people who don't know much about the sport or don't have that much exposure to the sport coming from their communities. If you give them that exposure and offer them the opportunity to participate, then great things can happen for you and also that individual.
Yeah, it's all it is.
In the future.
Access to opportunities, for sure.
Exactly.
So yeah, man. So that's really great news, and I like it. And honestly, like, if this continues, I'm gonna check out NASCAR. You know, why not?
But I wonder would hockey consider doing something like this.
Hockey?
Sport of hockey. Yeah.
I'm not aware of hockey. So hockey is very different so NASCAR is a purely American sport. Well, I'm not gonna say purely, but it's a mainly American sport, right? So
right.
In order for diversity to hit America, Americans are gonna have to do something about it to increase it. I've seen stats where not surprisingly, but hockey actually, in terms of the four major sports being hockey, baseball, basketball, and football, hockey actually has the most, players from the most countries. So it's actually diverse, but it's like, I mean, obviously all of them are European countries. So they're and Canada, but like, so they're a little bit different. I do think that so, hockey actually does have a lot of black people in it. I'm not gonna say a lot. It has
not a lot.
I'm not gonna say, but it does have like a couple of, like, PK Subban, his brother, I believe, is a goalie. And it's a couple other ones that's coming up as well that are young. They do have there was this one black hockey player a couple of years ago who got drafted second. Out the first round. So I mean, there's a couple of people coming up. The interesting part about them is that they're Canadian.
So they're hockey is very big in Canada.
Yeah, but they're not American. They're not African American, right? Which is it's interesting. So they're not. I'm not gonna get too involved. So I'm not gonna get too involved. But like, so for some weird, they're not like getting as much exposure. Like PK Subban should be huge. He has the personality.
Barely know about it.
You can market him, but I mean, he's born and raised in Canada. And he's made it very clear that, I mean, because like when issues came up with Trump, I mean, he made it very clear he's Canadian. So we'll leave it at that. But issues in America may not be the issues in Canada. But I mean, like, so there are blacks specifically blacks that I'm aware of that are like coming up in the NHL. Uh,
And I'm saying that more so the exposure, just
yeah,
because
no, I
this
get what
is
you're
hockey,
saying.
this is how you.
Yeah, should there be a program? I guess I'm saying that because I don't think the NHL. I'm not aware of anything. They may have it, right? I'm not saying they don't, but I'm not aware of it, and I don't think that would be something that they would do at this time because I mean, whenever I see diversity, like they consider diversity something different in the NHL, and
Yeah,
they do have not like a million, but they do have between 5 and 10 black people that are coming up that are pretty young. So I don't think that they would think that would be necessary, if that makes sense.
I get you. I get you. I think it will be beneficial to grow the sport a little bit more. Just,
To have a
I mean,
program.
I'm not saying they have to do what NASCAR is doing, but I'm just saying just maybe not pop up shops, but organizations within urban communities that are teaching kids about hockey. And
Well,
hey, let's go teach you how to ice
so
skate.
hockey. It's since we're talking about hockey, we're just kind of sidetracked. But since we're talking about hockey, it's here's a couple of things, right? So number one, hockey is obviously the most expensive sport, right? So that's going to be
Yeah,
a hard limiter for a lot of people who could potentially be great in that sport. I told you about how like I used to play hockey when I was growing up, and there was nothing but black
yeah,
kids, and it was nothing but black kids at Jack Adams Arena in Detroit. But I mean, I saw kids who were like I think I was like 12 when I was playing it, 11 and 12. I know kids who were like, and I was like, I was good. Like I wouldn't out of 0 out of 10 in terms of like kids in terms of like little league sports. I was probably like a 6, maybe a 7 in hockey. I know kids who were like 9 and 10 and were like better than me, like way better than me, black. So I
yeah.
mean, they had the potential to be something. Like we don't know what they could have been, but they dropped out of it. Um, by the time they were like teenagers. So maybe there does need to be a support system in there because I can say with my own eyes like the potential in terms of at least I only got to see it up to like 14, but like when you're talking about black athletes, especially specifically in the Detroit area, that could possibly go pro, like the potential is there. But you just need that support group and you need that money, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
can they provide on top of a program, can they also provide money? I don't know. There's different barriers than there are in like a NASCAR.
Good point.
So,
Good
but
point, Dan.
yeah. Hockey. Who knew? Um, but with that being said, let's go ahead and let's segue over to the last discussion topic, which is small business confidence and what it means for diverse businesses. Now, as you know, the economy is doing well. Now, while some of you are probably that listening to this podcast are probably like debating, we're not debating. Let's just throw this out there because I mean, let's just be honest here. Not being trying to be controversial, but being honest. While some people may say that this is a Trump economy that's doing great, some people think that this is an Obama economy that Trump inherited that's doing great. Whatever side you're on, so I want to make sure that we take that on head first. Whatever side you're on, small business confidence is hitting record highs. What that means is that small businesses believe that the next 12 months, 2018, so all of 2018, so I guess the next, 9 months or 10 months, the next 10 months, uh, that they're going to see an increase in revenue and they're also going to be able to do things such as hire more employees, buy more equipment, or expand their business, maybe to a new location, etc. So small business confidence is extremely high. And again, that is because the economy is doing very well right now. And I want to be specific and make sure people understand it's not just the American economy that's doing well. The entire world economy is doing well, except for in certain areas. But overall, everyone's doing extremely well. Um, Enjoy it. What a time to be alive. Now, what does this confidence mean for diverse businesses wherever you are, right? If you're in Canada, you're a diverse business, South Africa, and even America, right? If you're a minority owned, women owned, veteran owned, etc. What this means is that the big thing here is when you're looking at corporations that are looking to expand, right? In particular, over the past week or so, what I've been seeing is that corporations and universities, for example, the Florida A&M project that we were talking about, how they're trying to create a new student center. What we're seeing is these construction projects. JP Morgan also just announced that they're also going to be uh, moving headquarters, which means that they're trying to essentially build a bigger headquarters for their employees. We also have the Amazon um, headquarters too that's going to come up in a couple of years. What we're seeing is as these corporates expand, because the economy is doing so well and they feel like they can grow in construction, we're also seeing that they're also looking to hire minority-owned businesses, or diverse businesses, excuse me. So that's women-owned, veteran-owned, etc., for these projects. So if you're following these big name companies, I think that it's very essential if you're a diverse business to really keep an eye on who's looking to expand. Again, I've mentioned a couple: J.P. Morgan, Florida A&M, if you're in the Florida area, but there's a ton of other ones. Exelon Generator is also another one that is doing a lot of things when it comes to diverse suppliers. DTE Energy is another one as well.
Dollar General too, right?
Yep,
I mean, Dollar General is looking for
yep.
a lot of more diverse suppliers.
Yep, they got a conference coming up. I don't know if they're doing. I don't know if they want to spend. And they're creating a conference to look to spend with minority-owned business. Not minority. I'm sorry, diverse businesses. But the other ones, like
Right.
I know that they're spending, and I know like they're like saying, "Hey, look, we just spent." Like DT Energy just spent, I forgot what, like local businesses in Detroit, which also include diverse businesses, and they're looking to like expand that. But yeah, so this is the perfect time to really follow these corporations and look to see what new products they have coming up, because there is a really big bet that we're going to see 20-30% that they're looking to spend with diverse suppliers. So again, what a time to be alive. Diverse companies should also have their confidence high along with everyone else, because there are going to be a lot of opportunities, specifically in that construction space, over the next couple of years. Yep. Now, in other spaces, such as, it depends, right? So these are for B2Bs. Now, if you're a diverse business and you're selling B2C, what does this mean for the regular consumer? Well, although people are making fun of it because it may not be giving as much money back as people thought, tax breaks are actually pretty good, right? Because what you're going to have is regular people having extra money. Now, I think some things on Twitter, maybe not everybody, and I don't mean to laugh, but like, maybe an extra $2 a week clearly isn't enough. But there are going to be people within that middle class and lower upper class that are going to have a nice chunk of change that, if you are B2C, you can have as an opportunity for that extra flush of cash. So there's also opportunity there, which actually hits, I believe, this month. It's either this month or next month. But as we go into the summer and as people have gotten this extra money, I believe that the summer will really be a really good time to really promote those products if you're selling B2C, or just before the summer, so that you can maybe increase your revenue on people with extra or additional cash. So yeah. Any thoughts on that, Ray? Sorry, I'm like taking over a little bit.
No, you're fine. I mean, you said it best. I mean, it's a great time if you're a minority supplier to check these things out and look into it. So, you said it great. So, I mean,
Yeah, man.
continue on, my friend. You're good.
No, but the research starts now, because there are things coming up that are pipelines are being created now. So now is the time to really do your research, look at these companies, see what products are coming up, because the tax breaks have helped them out, which means that they're looking to expand, which means that there's going to be opportunities to do business with these guys. So now is the time to do your research, put together your proposals, and get ready for that competition that's going to come up over the next 6 to 12 months. So yes, and with that being said, that's our thoughts on today's podcast. Uh, As always, thank you so much
If
for
you
listening
feel
to us.
if it
Yeah.
moved you, like you said, if it moved you, please let it consume your soul and take it all in. If it moved you,
If it moves you. That's funny. I love it. Sound like I'm at church. If it moves you, please like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. As always, thank you so much for your continued support. Really hope you enjoyed the podcast. With that, take care.